I was scrolling through YouTube earlier today and came across this particular channel, and I wanted to check it out because his his titles are very intriguing. Okay, his titles are very intriguing, and I've watched some of his content, and it makes sense. Some of it, for the most part, it makes sense. But as I kept looking through to see what else he had to say, I noticed that a majority of his content, a majority of what he has to share, a majority of his message is condemnation. And he is very critical of the believer. He's a believer himself, and he's very critical of the believers. His videos are primarily about, if you're doing this, stop, or if your church is saying this, stop. If your church has this or this, don't go. Leave immediately. Are these people false teachers? This person's a false teacher. That's a false teacher. Are you saying this in your prayers? Because if you are, stop. I mean, it's condemnation. It's condemnation, and I question and tend to stray away from people whose voice and message is wrapped around condemnation. I am 100% all the way for correction. I am 100% all the way for information. I am 100% all the way for growth. And growth requires truth, and truth can be uncomfortable. However, if that truth is wrapped in condemnation and not conviction, if that truth is not wrapped in love, if I am only feeling your condemnation, not because it's uncomfortable, not because it's the truth and it's making me uncomfortable, but if all I am feeling is your condemnation, I am not hearing you. Regardless of if the message is valid or not, I question whether or not the message was meant for me because of the delivery of it. And I could see if it was just one message or so, but like this is his thing, this is his message, and it concerns me, and it just made me want to just tell you, okay, just be careful of who you listen to, because it's very easy to be drawn to, I think it could be potentially human nature, but it's very easily to be drawn to that negative aspect. It's very easy, especially if you're desperate and eager, desperate might be the wrong word, but you're eager to do what is right in the eyes of God. Then it's very easy to be drawn to people that are always telling you what you're doing wrong. It's very Sadducees, Pharisees type stuff to me. It really is. There are things that you don't do. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying people should not be out here correcting, but I believe that when it is led by God, truly led by God, and not by ego, or not by ego, self-importance, you'll feel the love. You'll feel the love of God in conviction. There was a time that I was at a conference. I was in a conference at Atlanta, and I was sitting with my mentor and some of her friends, and we were having a conversation about where I was in my life at that time. And at that time, I was doing some things that were not godly. Okay? And that I was still, a believer and all that stuff, but I was doing things, and I justified it. I felt the conviction in my heart about it, but I justified it, and I continued to do it because of where I was at mentally at that time, and because who I was turning to at that time I was not focused on that area of growth. And if I had focused on that area of growth, I was not going to turn to God for it, because I knew what I was doing was wrong. And I was sitting with them, and they had this whole conversation with me about what it was that I was doing. And I remember This is something that I believe will be burned in my memory forever, because the way that they corrected me was so full of love. All I could do was cry. I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. The love that I felt in the correction. The love that I felt in the correction was so freaking beautiful. So beautiful. That I knew it was God. It was from God. They weren't shying away from anything. They weren't sugarcoating anything, but they gave it to me in love, and I was able to receive it. It wasn't condemnation. It was conviction. And because of that conviction, I eventually turned away from that thing. And because I turned away from that thing, I allowed myself to connect more and grow more with God, to receive more, to see more. Condemnation doesn't do that. Condemnation keeps you trapped inside of the legalism and the law, but and keeps you, and it pulls you more and more away from relationship. Relationship is key. You'll hear me say it all the time. Relationship is key. It's foundational to everything that you're going to do. To everything that you're going to do, and how you're able to do it in partnership with God. So be careful of these condemning voices that are out there. If it strikes you and you feel convicted, so be it. Go do your research. Go sit with God on that thing that you want to talk more about. But be careful. Be careful. Erica Thomas has, and I've heard my mentor also, Ebony Trust, talk about the counterfeit. For every real thing out here, for every real thing and every truth that God created, the enemy has created a counterfeit. I believe that condemnation is the counterfeit to conviction. So be careful. Be careful. Because it can cripple your walk. It can cripple your walk. It can cripple your growth. It can cripple your healing. Thus, crippling your outcomes, crippling your relationship. Okay? So, be careful of who it is that you're listening to. Pay attention. Know God for yourself. Even with the words that you hear me speak, the things that come out of my mouth, you go to God about those things. You go to God about those things and let Him either continue the revelation or give you a revelation on what it is that you're hearing. Because God is truth. He is truth. And He is willing to share that truth with you. He wants to share that truth with you, but you got to go to Him to get it. So be careful. All right. Be blessed. Stay true. I'm going to leave it right there.